Man who had apparently planned to assassinate President Trump on his golf course, Trump International, in West Palm yesterday. This, in terms of trying to understand motive, and this is very early, so I'm not ascribing motive, but his passion was Ukraine, as he so explained in an interview he gave, talking about the guy in custody accused of plotting to assassinate President Trump. This interview he gave to Newsweek in 2022 about the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Tell me who you are and why are you here?
56 from the U.S. From North Carolina originally, so I live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that, we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not.
Wonderful E pluribus unum speech, right up until you decide that you're going to try to murder a former president. So I guess he was of the mind that he had bought the propaganda of Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Socialist Party of the last decade, that Trump was some sort of a Putin stooge, Manchurian candidate, despite all the evidence to the contrary. His social media accounts were quickly scrubbed.
Yeah, Facebook right away. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg. Is that election interference 2024?
Well, but it doesn't really change what we know about him. We'll see what the FBI is willing to disclose in terms of what we were unable to see, maybe the sorts of Trump vitriol that punctuated his posts. But we do have some of his posts on X. Mm-hmm. And again, it's all Ukraine all the time. Hashtag World War III, let's go, people. I'm ready to go to Ukraine and fight and die for the kids and families of Ukraine. We cannot sit around and do nothing. Another post, I need your help, all caps. I'm willing, which means you're yelling. I'm willing to fly from America to fight as a civilian, but I need someone to respond and help with a media campaign to encourage others around the globe to join the fight. Looking for a cause, looking to be a martyr. That's always a dangerous profile.
And also, one time he tweeted or X'd about Trump. He said, Trump should be massa instead of MAGA. Make Americans slaves again, master. Democracy, all in capital letters, is on the ballot, and we cannot lose. We cannot afford to fail. The world is counting on us to show the way.
Mm-hmm. So, the fatalism of the zealot. Rachel Vindman, she is the husband of Alexander Vindman, who was the star witness in impeachment proceeding number 1 against Trump. And now Vindman, Alexander, is running for Congress in Virginia. His wife tweeted, no ears were harmed. Carry on with your Sunday afternoon.
And it wasn't that, the head of the sheriff's department, Palm Beach Sheriff, I should say Rick Bradshaw, said he was 300 to 500 yards away, and he could have gotten a shot off.
How far away was the president? How far away was Donald Trump when this gentleman was caught and stopped?
Probably between 300 and 500 yards. But with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
No, it's not. And so I wonder why Rick Bradshaw also gave the Secret Service high marks. I'm not sure that's warranted, although we're still very early in understanding everything that happened and buttoning it down, even as we are eagerly anticipating the congressional report on the July 13th assassination attempt.
And when this happened, President Trump was on the 5th hole. He was putting, actually, when they heard shots fired, and the Secret Service tackled him, and the gunman was allegedly on the 6th hole.
And then he got up and he said, "Putt, putt, putt," and he drained it. Mike Olson is a retired Secret Service agent. He joins us now. Mike, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dan.
So, a would-be assassin gets within shooting distance of the former president again. Your comments?
Well, this profile that you went through of Ryan Routh, or Ruth, however you say his name, is not an unusual profile that's come across the Secret Service for decades and decades. The question is, who knew what about him, and was he even on the Secret Service's radar, and was he on the FBI's radar for his international travel and things like that? Would be highly concerning. Separate of that, I think by now, with as close as we are to the election and with what happened on July 13th and the threat profile of what it is against the former president, Donald Trump, we should be at a complete heightened level of, full presidential level protection. I heard these comments about, well, he's not the president yet, or he's the former president, so it's a different profile. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the threats and the vitriol and the rhetoric against presidential candidate Donald Trump is extremely high, off the charts, and that alone should be warranting off the chart level of presidential protection or former presidential protection, regardless of whether he's current or former. So, one of the biggest concerns I saw, of course, and like you said, it's a little early, we don't quite have all the information, but the concern would be what was being done outside of the perimeter of that golf course. Who was there watching for unusual things, unusual people to be showing up, while the president was there or prior to the president's arrival to play around the golf.
Yeah, it's just, that was the reaction. That was my reaction. That was a lot of people's just commonsensical reaction, just layman. I have no law enforcement background. But, at a certain point, maybe you say, we want to do full perimeter security, particularly in an open space like a golf course, just to be on the safe side after this embarrassment and near miss on July 13th. It just gets the sense, you just get the sense that this isn't being taken all that seriously, and they're more worried about doing damage control on this forthcoming report on July 13th and arranging the senior level agents who are going to take early retirement to avoid the hangman's noose, metaphorically. It just, you just get the sense like this is treated as not a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It's very concerning. And one of the things that was brought up about this particular incident yesterday was that, maybe the protection wasn't as intense because it was what was called an off-the-record move, meaning the golf outing was not on the schedule of President Trump. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, again, my 10-year-old nephew could conduct an analysis by the internet and determine the movements of somebody like President Trump down in Florida in a tight area where you've got Mar-a-Lago, which is out on the Outer Banks, connected by a couple golf courses that we see for the last 8 years he goes to. Right. So it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So that, combined with all of the threatening language, the previous threats, the July 13th incident, I mean, we've got competing parties making threats. It goes without saying that it's at the highest level it could be. Not to mention foreign governments that we've heard stories of, like Iran. It baffled me to hear the sheriff, and I'm not criticizing them at all for the comments, but the fact of well, this is the former president, so it's not as much. It defies logic to me. 100% it defies logic to me under the current situation we're under with the former president.
Well, how did he know he was there? I mean, if it wasn't on Trump's public schedule, it was last minute. I mean, they're going to investigate to see how long he's been in West Palm, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. They'll figure that out. They'll look at travel schedules. I mean, I'll be honest with you. My concern is, and I haven't heard much talked about it. I'm sure the FBI and others will be looking into this. Is who were his associations and what were his links over to Ukraine, and with him trying to help fund a battle on the ground in Ukraine. what was his objective for coming back here? Who else was potentially involved in sending him back here potentially? And I emphasize potentially, as far as funding. I mean, this guy radiates all kinds of red flags in terms of, I mean, you see it, I caught a quick glimpse before they took it down, his posts on LinkedIn, his ramblings. I mean, he checks off all kinds of red flags. So, but the problem is with President Trump in particular, it's no secret that he golfs all the time, regularly down there. So, I mean, if you have time, you have money, and you have the ability to, kind of lie in wait, and you've scoped out, conducted some surveillance of the area, you can sit across the street in the public jail facility there for down there in Florida and watch the motorcade coming in and out and see which way they come, which way they go out, and get a map of the view online, of the holes online, and just be waiting for the next time he shows up.
Well, I mean, like the presidential, the incumbent presidential level detail. What does that look like? I mean, is the entire perimeter of the course covered? Would it be like wave after wave? So you would have multiple agents. I mean, this is the topography. Multiple agents on the hole in front of him, and then they're onto the two holes in front of him, and then there's another layer, the hole in front of him. So you just sort of one line of security after another to make sure that there are no gaps in terms of coverage when you have a space like a golf course. I mean, is that what is the difference in terms of the security profile for the incumbent president versus the non-incumbent president, at least at this time, in a situation like that?
Well, to be honest, Dan, with what happened on July 13th and with the threats, there should be no difference. There should be zero light between a current and a former president. It shouldn't matter. It should be based off the threat level.
But what would that look like if it was?
Well, I would, and again, I'm only basing off what I've seen. However, based on the official comments by the sheriff's office and the press release, it did not appear to me that they had any exterior perimeter coverage of the golf course, the entire facility, meaning the roadways around. It's one thing, how you set up, like you described, a hole in front, a hole behind, and who's out on the golf course itself, but who's outside the golf course in those layers. Secret Service sets up concentric rings of protection typically. So where was that additional layer, or was there local law enforcement assigned outside the perimeter to watch anybody that would in fact walk up to that fence line? We've had presidents golfing for decades and decades. I've been a part of those myself, and you need people on the outside conducting some level of fixed posts and counter surveillance activity to identify somebody like him walking out, into shrubs.
What do you expect to come of the report that we're waiting for on July 13th? Anything of importance? Anything that we don't already know?
I don't think anything that we don't already know, other than more confirmation that this has been significant resources have been overlooked, have not been requested and asked for. This concept of former president versus a current president versus, hey, if the threats rise and fall, the threat level, we have to be able to dedicate more resources to that. And is there funding then available to do that? Especially in a campaign year like this one.
Mike Olson, retired Secret Service agent. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dan. You're welcome, Amy. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Americans deserve a more balanced debate than they got from ABC. The moderators fact-checked former President Trump 4 times.